The Pokemon culture is live and stronger than ever, and today we will be looking at the YouTube special, the SRPK33, which is the smaller size Seiko 5 offered on a cool teal dial. As much as we love budget Seikos and bright, spectacular colors on the dial, this model will probably not have the Seiko 5 GMT success, because this is not made for everyone. And in the upcoming period, a lot of content creators will review this watch and plant a seed into our minds through repetition and diversity of the content with the same subject. I am calling this watch as the YouTube special, a watch which is made to make waves on YouTube. Because affordable Seiko, because teal, and because size. There are pretty much two contexts where the content creators will recommend you to buy this watch or to completely avoid it. So is this ethical? I don't know, but YouTube doesn't play by any rule. The algorithm actually is pretty tough. As we've seen around the channel, you might have spotted the lines that I put into the videos. Buy watches responsibly, YouTube is not a watch boutique. The content proposed by reviewers, even in our beloved niche, becomes more and more aggressive, that I can assure you. Because every content creator aims for sustainability and growth, and as a result, the trust factor sometimes might suffer. However, knowing the context, nobody is to be blamed. So when it comes to buying watches which are advertised as wow products, you have to learn to make the difference between what is important for content creators to highlight and what is important for you. The reality of a good product is pure subjective. It might differ from one individual to another, so a watch can end up as not being suitable for you despite the assurance of the reviewer. Based on my experience with YouTube as a buyer and a creator, it is extremely good to stay informed and to enjoy reviews to stay up to date trend-wise. But not so good to follow by word any reviewer and buy watches because they say it's wow. You have to own it, no matter the brand, whether we're talking about Patek, AP, Rolex or Pagani design. That's a fact. It is true we encourage consumption through our videos. People are seeing weekly new watches. So there is a massive responsibility from our side to assess and review wristwatches correctly, whether we're talking about the good ones or the bad ones. But there is a responsibility from your side to filter the content creators, the trust factor, but most important, the wristwatches, asking yourself if you really need that reviewed watch. So the SRPK33 in Tiffany blue or teal is exactly that type of a watch. One of the most expected watches to be hyped non-verbally. And here you can count how fast the previews appeared on Google search, on the biggest blogs, forum discussions or on YouTube reviews. This is how you count hype on a wristwatch. And in regard to reviews, normally choosing the right sources to be trusted is as well pure subjective. For example, when I choose my preferred channels, I am looking at what the content creators review, to understand if the palette of watches reviewed meets the value scale. Precisely if the value for the money statement is assessed and what quality for the money represents. There is a precious statement saying that you have to know to love yourself first to understand what love means to offer. It's exactly the same in wristwatches. To understand the value scale, you have to understand what quality means to determine the correct benchmarking. And by doing so, I can understand if a content creator understands if a product is really valuable for the price asked. This is a small part of a big problem which YouTube feeds and supports. And I want to leave you with this theme to consider and to think about against your buying habits. I will stop here, but I promise I will come back on the subject. The culture of Pokemon Go, you gotta catch 'em all, is live and lasting for some time already. It's the concept of providing the same watch or the same design offered in multiple sizes, colors or complications. GMTs, chronograph, 3 hands, 2 hands, the same watch. And Seiko is ensuring that they play around with colors, sizes and dial design sufficiently enough until the iconic SKX platform is milked. Sometimes, some models are pretty good, but some of them remaining uninspired. And the true fact is that the new Seiko 5 line is made already in over 100 models. So the new series Seiko 5 was transformed exactly in the concept of Pokemon Go, as I call it. Offered in 38mm, the new SRPK33 design is made to emulate potentially the success of the 013 model, because the SKX 013 had its own enthusiasts. So the narrative of the day is to find out if this watch is good for you or not. Sadly, this can't be worn by the vast majority of the people, because the reality is the following. This 38mm 5 is very nice for a budget watch. It's true, it's not a genuine diver watch, but it's pretty appealing, I'd say. This is my first modern Seiko 5. It's been a while since I finally decided to pull the trigger on one of their pieces. But I failed exactly this time because, what do you know, this watch is way too small for my wrists. I wore, had and have 38mm watches or smaller, and in some cases, based on the profile of the watch, they might look big or small. And I hate it, it happens a few times, not very often, but I really hate to review watches that are not tailored for me. And I can't express true perceptual feelings for this watch, because by default is denied by the size against my body. And in reality it feels like this 5 line is lesser a true purpose watch, but more for amateur or people that just want a fun automatic watch. So probably that's why, for so long, the new 5 didn't click for me. And I think this line deepened the nostalgia in me to want a Seiko SKX, which I bought. But I want to sell it once again the popularity and the power of the SKX 009 and 007, which inspired the Seiko 5 line. That good the design was made back then. And its quality, I have to admit, it is pretty good. I was expecting to be disappointed here and there, but actually the watch feels pretty solid, starting from the bracelet, which doesn't rattle as bad as the budget Prospex model. The thickness of the bracelet and the weight is considerable, the case feels unitary and solid, and the pipeless bezel feels accurate. So Seiko made after all a better SKX. The SKX case has some interesting proportions which made the series very wearable despite the size. The original tonneau case measures in diameter 42mm, but in reality it wears smaller than that, because of the tonneau profile which narrows down pretty much towards the lug tips. And besides that, proportion-wise, the lug-to-lug distance is considered small compared to the maximum extremities of the case. Translated, this Seiko 5 in 38mm in diameter wears like a 36mm case, because the base might measure 38mm, but the lug tips alongside the bezel and the dial size dictates the size of the case from the perception point of view. So, surprise, the new 38mm version wears like an Explorer 1, which measures 35.5mm. More than that, the dial feels smaller than the Explorer's. Concluding that if the iconic profile of a mountaineering field watch can be pulled out at 36mm, a diver that looks like a 36mm doesn't look good on a 17+ inch wrist. So as much as I enjoyed this watch, sadly I have to let it go. I find it too small for myself. And as a conclusion, this is a good watch no matter what content creators will say. If the 5 concept is understood, you will meet and experience exactly the Seiko 5 you know, nothing more, nothing less. And if you have the chance to see it in flesh, put it on the wrist and see if it works for you. The quality is there for the price point, but pay attention at the way it sits on the wrist. This works for smaller wrists and for smaller statures, because a diver watch profile demands a bit of presence, but at this size, this wears indeed pretty small. And in the end, you probably know what I'm going to say. Wear what you like, enjoy what you want, and feel comfortable with what you choose. Listen more, stay informed from YouTube videos, extract what you need, balance and take the best decisions for yourself in regard to watch purchases. That simple it is. Or that simple should it be. Anyway, I am done. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Be brave, but stay safe.